Hi, my name is Toni, and I am a Christian creative. I'm married. I have 3 children. I have a dog. I have a wonderful husband, and I'm a retired military person. Well, first, my grandmother used to have a drapery shop, so I know how to sew. I learned how to sew with her. She used to sew curtains for the White House. One of the things I know is that I remember, I forgot what president it was, but she would call it, "Those are the curtains I made. Those are the curtains I made." So I used to make curtains for the White House. So during that time when I was younger, I was like 12 years old. I used to catch the bus from Maryland to Chapel Oaks, Maryland, and I used to sew with her. She had a shop in her basement, so I used to help her sew. The other thing is I always did hair. I used to do braids, and I still do braids. So I used to braid my sister's hair and everybody in the neighborhood. I used to braid their hair. What we used to do is we used to go to the park, and when we was at the park, they used to have arts and crafts. And so what I used to do is everybody would give me their beads, all the beads that they had. And so what I used to do is I used to sit on the porch and I used to braid everybody's hair, the girls and the guys. What I do now is I have a business. It's called Passionate Hair Care. And what I did was, I know my daughter had sister locks and my other daughter had locks in her hair. And I always had a passion to do hair. And so my daughter just told me, she said, "Mom, won't you take up sister locks?" And so I thought about that, and I always wanted my hair in sister locks. So what I did was I took the training and I got certified to do sister locks. And now what I do is I do sister locks, and sometimes I'll do braids on the side. And most of the time when I do braids on the side, it's like I may have somebody, like for instance, I had someone who was a missionary, and I pray about it and like God would tell me, just do her hair. Or it may be somebody else in the ministry or someone who I know that doesn't have the finances or the money to get their hair done. So what God would tell me is do their hair. And so that's what I do. I have a passion for doing people's hair, regardless if they have the money or not. Basically, it's an opportunity for me to minister, to be a witness, and also just to do their hair and just to see someone who wanted their hair done and couldn't afford to get their hair done. It just gave me an opportunity to be able to bless them. And I love to do hair. The name of my business is Passionate Hair Care. You can find me on Instagram at Passionate Hair Care, or I have an email and it's passionatehaircare@yahoo.com. I used to always do hair, and then I used to always want to experiment. So God blessed me at the beginning with 2 girls, Aurelia and Chanel. So what I used to do, I used to use them as, I guess you want to say, my test subjects or my guinea pigs. And I know that I never forget it. I was trying to test a full weave. And so I'm sorry laughing at myself. Reed was probably about 10 years old, and I did a full weave on her head, and it was the first time, and it looked like a literal wig. And she went to school, and her teacher said, "You got a wig on your head." But I tested my children, but I learned as time went by to get better. So my daughters were always blessed to get their hair done. Now they got new inventions. They have mannequins, so now I use the mannequins to use to test hair. But my daughters were always the test subjects, so he blessed me with girls. So I was able to do their hair first. I always liked to do hair. That was just something that I like to do. I used to like to do things with my hands. Matter of fact, the first time I was doing something with my hands, my father was an electrician. Matter of fact, he was one of the first electricians to retire. Was a union. I remember IBEW Local 26. That was my father. He was there and he retired there. And I always wanted to be an electrician until one day when I went with him and he had to put up some electricity in somebody's house. And when I went there, it was like it had been flooded down there, and I saw all kinds of stuff in their basement. And just to know what he went through, I was like, no, I don't want to be an electrician anymore. But I always had a desire to do hair. Like I said, when we used to go to the park, I used to get the beads and do hair. And my aunts and my aunts, not my uncles, every last one of my aunts, I think I braided their hair. And then they had friends, and then they had friends, and I was doing hair. And matter of fact, that when I went to college, that was how I first was able to get to college, because I used the money to get into college, Holmes Junior College in, what was it, Mississippi. If you have a gift and you know that's your gift, make sure you go where your heart is and get into your gift. Because I know growing up, I wanted to get into cosmetology, and people was telling me, no, don't get into cosmetology. You won't make no money there. But you got to go where your gift is and what God has birthed in you. Because if you don't, you'll be out there trying to make money and you'll be miserable. So I'll say, whatever gift that you had, go with your heart. And I know my daughter, she likes to dance. And because she likes to dance, I said, go with your heart. If you like to dance, dance. But make sure you give God glory in your dancing. And so even with me doing hair, it's an opportunity for me to witness, and it's an opportunity to bless somebody. So that's why I say, if you have a passion to do something, it doesn't matter how old you are, how long you pondered on it, do it, because you only live once. You have inspiration, and then you have supporters, I guess. And the reason I say inspiration and supporters, and I say that my pastors, Pastor Carl and Pastor Valerie, and they always, every time Pastor Carl minister, he always said, God has placed in you business ideas, do what God has for you to do. And he said, you have a business in you. And he just keep prophesying away, and it just inspired me. And it just inspired me to do what I was supposed to do. And my biggest supporter is my husband. I can say that no matter what I did, or I'm always buying something, or I'm always investing in something, he didn't say anything. He just went along with it. And I also can say my girls, they really supported me. And they was like, Mommy, do what you want. Do hair. You know you like hair, doing hair. Won't you get into sister locks? You know you like doing sister locks. Start somewhere. And my niece, Tasha, she'd be, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you set a goal for something? So I can say my family is my biggest supporters and inspiration. And so my pastors. Yep. I remember I was a recruiter, and I was in Reading, Pennsylvania. And we had a guy come in there. He was my supervisor. I guess you can say he was over the recruiting station. And they said, we got a Christian coming in here. And I was like, a Christian? What's a Christian? Because we didn't use the terminology, somebody who believed in God. And I know he came in there, and everybody was walking on eggshells. And I just felt like in my life, I had money, I had a family, and it just felt like I was just missing something. And I started going to church more. I went to church when we was every blue moon, maybe once a year. I was one of those people who went to church on Easter, on Christmas, and I may have slipped another one in there some other time. But anyway, I started going to church, and I wanted to know more about God. And I started reading my Bible more. And then I go to church. And when I went to church, it seemed like every time I went to church, the pastor was in there cracking jokes, and he wasn't following, reading the word so I can follow it. So I started going to Bible study. Same thing. They was, you hear stuff, but you wasn't hearing what you really wanted to hear about God. So I just started reading the Bible for myself. And as I read about the Bible for myself, and I remember, and I was reading in Romans about giving your life to Christ. And if you confess with your mouth and you believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord, and he rose again, he died and he rose for us. I did that. I remember I did that in my room. And ever since then, I just been changing, always changing more and more all the time. So that's when I wanted to know more about God. And as I learned more about God, I changed and my family changed. It took him a while. It took my husband a long time, but he changed. But yeah, but he changed because he saw the change in me. But at first, when he saw the change in me, he was like, "That's not who I married." But anyway, I mean, yeah. So yeah, when he saw the change in me, he wanted to change. And I can tell you that Pastor Carl and Pastor Valerie did everything to open the doors for him, to make everything accessible to him, to get into church. And I used to ask him to come to church. Then I stopped asking. Then he started asking to come to church. And then it came from every other Sunday to every Sunday. Then it came to every Sundays to Wednesdays to Saturdays. And yeah, just to see your prayers answered. To see your prayers answered and everybody in your family sold out to Christ, and to see your family leading others to Christ. Yep. I didn't mean to go there. When you know, yeah. Whew, my family was a hot mess. But know that God can turn a hot mess around. He turned me around. I used to curse so much. Never mind. Yeah, I used to curse. Oh my gosh. I used to curse so much. They used to have a curse jar in our job. And I already knew that I would put my $5 in there for a game. You just know that you wasted all that money. But to don't even have a desire to do that. But yeah. I just put on praise and worship. And if I find I can't, one of the things, if I find I can't sleep or something, I read my word. I'm in my word. And I always have my podcasts on, I listen to Relentless. I listen to the recordings that is on my phone. Every time I'm in church, every time the pastor speak, every time we have prophetic work, I just bring back to remembrance what God said. And I just play it in my ear. And when I'm going to work, most of the time I don't listen to music. I'm either praying or I am listening to the podcast. So I'm always having the word in my ear. And, you know, sometimes I just have on soaking music. Sometimes if I just want to work, it's not, and I can't listen, but I'll just have soaking music on. Yeah. Prayer. Oh my gosh. Everything to God in prayer. And prayer is our communication, our connection to God. It's depending and relying on God because that's the way He created us to be. And I say prayer is so important because when you pray, we also have the power, we also have the authority to shape and create what we want. And we also have to be connected to God in order for those things to happen. And just seeing by prayer, everything that we've been praying for and believing God for, from my house, from the car, from the truck, from my job, for school, everything. When I am doing my school, even before I did it, prayer is everything. You know, it's just everything to God in prayer, everything. So we pray a lot. We always communicating with God, always fellowshipping with God. So prayer is so very important. Even when I do somebody's hair, I be praying about that person. You know, some people, when I do their hair, you can come in the door, you have to be sensitive to where they're at. Some people you can, I do their hair and I just hug on them. And some of them you could already know that they're distant. So you got to be mindful about how you speak to them, okay, Lord, what do you want me to say? Am I supposed to say anything? So I'm always mindful about Holy Spirit about him and listening on what I'm supposed to do, because everybody is not greeted the same way. I don't know what their day was or what they went through, but I just always ask God, what is it that you want me to do? So everything I do, I have to pray about it. I pray about that person's hair that I'm doing as well. I think prayer, when you pray, you're asking God for direction. And as you're asking God for direction and insight, vision, revelation, as you're praying and you're asking God for these things, He's going to answer. And when He answers, He'll show you. For instance, I was going to do somebody's hair and I was going to do a certain style I never did before. And so as I had my mannequin, I was just praying. I said, okay, Lord, I've been doing this for a while. Show me how I'm supposed to do this. And immediately when I put my hands on my mannequin, I was able to do it. And it was so much easier, even though I had been praying about it, but it was like listening to see what God was saying. So prayer is so important because I have to pray. I know that I have a gift, but in order for me to operate in my gift fully, I have to be connected to the Maker that made that gift in me. And that person and God being that He made that gift in me, I have to communicate with Him in order to do what I do even better. I already had the gift, but in order for me to shape it and mold it, I had to ask Him, what is it that you want me to do? I would have never got into Sister Lock. He uses my family. And I wanted to do hair, but I didn't know which way to do. And me praying about it, my daughter was saying, hey, Mom, won't you get into Sister Locks? And I believe He uses people, uses people when you pray too. So that's why I think that it's always important to pray, because when you pray, because you have that gift, it just brings it out even more, because He's the creator of it, of the gift that He gave me with. He blessed me with. Mm-hmm. Something that I really want to do is, I have a friend, and we've been friends since we've been in my husband was in the military. I was stationed with her in Germany, and her name is Dr. Kathy Kirkland, and she's a day trader. And when I tell you that God has blessed her with trading, and she would not be where she was today if she did not pray about her direction, because her praying, God has given her so much favor that she's in you might as well say she's in a company where now within a year and a half, she's the top trader and they have millions. It's the multi-million-dollar business, or $1 trillion business. Well, basically she's at the top. She would not be where she was at if she didn't pray. And when I retire and finish with my schooling, that's what I want to do, because I know that's what I'm supposed to be doing, to be a day trader too. I'm just holding out for right now till I finish with my school, and then that's what I wanted to do. Yep. I always wanted to go to Jerusalem. I always wanted to go to Jerusalem, and so I'm going to go when Junior starts walking. So when he walks, we're going to Jerusalem together. Yep. That's one thing that I have on my bucket list. Yep. Don't let fear stop you. If you're young, if you're older, do it. And know that God will never leave you nor forsake you. So no matter what it is that you want to do, God's giving you the gift, go for it. Yeah. That's all. Hi. Okay, hello. Whew. Maybe I should leave that part out. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this because I feel so nervous. I can tell. We might have to do this over again. I'll probably be the most retakes that you had. Mm-hmm. You didn't answer the question. Huh? I said, but you didn't answer the question. What did you say? Okay, so how many times can we retake this? You see, you ain't got no time. You don't record that part.